not everything is measured in dollars and cents. That whole idea of sometimes justice, equality, as cheesy as it may come across sometimes, is still worth fighting for.
So thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So basically, one of the things that we would like to know is, based on your podcast where you had said, if you equate self-actualization with money, then it's a gone case, and I quote you on that. I'm curious to know, how does this idea resonate with Singaporeans, or in Singapore, which is often seen as a poster child for materialism and affluence? Does this kind of idea, this kind of concept or ideology, if I may, gain any traction?
You're not never talking about Westerners, Asians. That's like the bifurcation that really doesn't exist. We're all human beings. And as humans, we always look to develop, even psychologically. When you've got no food and shelter, you look for it. But once you've got those in place, you look for something that's progressively higher: security, well-being, love, and eventually you end up with self-actualization. And that's what human progress has always been. If you're stuck at the level where you're always just on a survival mode, that does something to psychology, both individually and collectively as a society. And that's where I always encourage Singapore, the government, the people, to look beyond the material. Once you've developed to a certain level, certain stage, you actually need to make that progress. And if you don't, you have problems in terms of psychological well-being, mental health come into place. And when you don't find you're able to progress and develop, then that's where the whole idea of learned helplessness comes around. The growth mindset, your internal, external locus of control, these are all psychological concepts which have a very big impact on life. Rather than just keep focusing on material growth as measured by GDP. And that's not going to cut it as we move forward, because you're really talking about quality of life right now, rather than just standard of living, and the two are not the same.
Okay. So can you tell us how come the opposition still struggles to make any significant inroads in Singapore?
Three things: media control, control of the election system, and then your ability to congregate, freely assemble. Without media, every newspaper, every TV station is still in the hands of the government. As far as gerrymandering is concerned, that's a whole new level that we see in Singapore. And then your inability to come together peacefully, that all contributes to the entire matter where even every 4 or 5 years you go to elections. It changes nothing, because the government has got everything in control for that whole period, and it gives you all of 9 days to campaign. You're not going to make any inroads, meaningful inroads. And that's why you see the PAP being able to sustain its control on Singapore all these decades. So that plays a huge part of it.
Do you see Prime Minister Lawrence Wong opening up the democratic space a little, or is he just going to continue the traditional?
There is one part of me that really, continues to harbor hope that anything is possible. But, you begin to think that's more wishful thinking, considering that all he's seen and heard. And you've got to understand, after decades, a set of institutionalized kind of system within the party itself, I'm not going to hold my breath.
So you've also faced many hurdles in your political journey, from arrests to court cases and whatnot. And you also mentioned that during the 1997 elections, your dog was poisoned, your electricity was cut off, and your tires were slashed. Is this something you could elaborate on for us?
There was a period where it was before the advent of the internet, social media, and everything that you came across to the public was basically painted by the media, the state media. And that was a very grim time. Not only was I facing some of these problems, the general public looked at you in a certain way, and to a certain extent, I don't blame them. I did as well as be able to poll something around 20% at that time. And I've had people coming up to me after YouTube came about, Facebook came about, and they looked at me, and then, you know, at forums sometimes when they invite me, they come up to me and look me dead in the eye and just very sincerely say, "You're not insane." And seriously, and I, you know, in a way, this is, you can't feel my forehead here and there are no horns sticking out now. But that's the power of media, how they were able to shape. And I was even labeled, the reason why they said they was not insane was because Lee Kuan Yew at that time said that he had consulted some of his medical friends, and they said I was near psychopath.
Oh, wow.
And that stuck. And that's why when people just meet me in person, you know, you're nothing of the person that we thought, you know, you were. And those are just very sad, tragic moments. I'm not speaking for myself right now, but when you've got legitimate people questioning the system, not wanting to tear it down, but to improve on what we have, that's delegitimized, and legitimate activities are now criminalized. And it's still going on till today. And this is where I worry for Singapore going forward. This whole idea of coming, you know, talking with Malaysiakini, which I've done before, it is a sad commentary, isn't it? That back home, my own media has never asked me for an interview. I take it back. There was one radio station that called me, emailed me, said they wanted to interview on me, and then just literally minutes thereafter say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you know, we have to postpone the date. We've already found somebody else, and it's been a year. I'm just still waiting for the invitation."
It has a super majority, but you can see the opposition is growing stronger, and hopefully it's coming to stay. So what do you, I don't know, see for the future with the opposition? Is it still a long way ahead?
Yeah. You know, if you read history, change doesn't come in a linear fashion. Nothing happens. For the longest of time, it's obscenely slow and everything, but when change comes, it's very abrupt. You look at Malaysia, you look at Indonesia, just around this region, a part of the world, as well as around the world. But I think in that sense, social media has now afforded at least us to get our message across unfiltered. And this has contributed hugely to that whole progress. But we're still up against a very strong state. The three, if I recall correctly, places where Singaporeans get their information is still very much pro-PAP, if you will. But this is where I think we'll continue to knock on the door in terms of just reaching out to the people and say, "Hey, you know, we're here." And I've always maintained, you know, the videos that I've done was always to use reasoned argument, to provide the facts and figures to, you know, substantiate what we say rather than, you know, just go on pure rhetoric and that kind of thing. So to me, it's very important that we continue to reach out, and therein, you know, this is a hope springs eternal. And this is where I just want to continue to focus on our own message. And in this day and age, you know, in Singapore's stage of development, this message becomes even more important now more than ever.
What more does the opposition need to like go further in Singapore? Because from what I'm hearing, like, you have been giving out this alternative policies, and is it because the people are unwilling to hear? Is it because the state, like, aren't you in?
My compatriots in the party is exactly the question. Oh, what more do you want us to do? All right, we've given up all, you know, we've sacrificed everything that we can sacrifice. And I just keep coming back to this one thing: don't despair. Because if you position yourself in their shoes, after half a century of just news coming at you in one direction, I'd be surprised if they think otherwise or be able to. And then there's fear of going up to the ballot box and wanting to vote for the opposition, but because it's fear, and, whether you're a civil servant, you're working on stat boards, or, in Singapore, because the government is all-encompassing, people are just, fearful of wanting to cast a vote for the opposition. But as I said, if you put, make sure that you locate our situation right now in history. It's taken change, and I'm talking about enduring change. Has not just taken years, it's taken decades. Here in Malaysia too, right? But this is where I think that whole idea of not just being patient, but just to be resilient. And by resilience, I don't mean just bouncing back into ground zero and then starting all over again. Every time you don't succeed, you learn from it and you make sure that you become stronger the next time, so that you keep continuing to improve in what you're doing. And I see it in our party too. Years ago, during our darkest days, at the nadir of our situation, I pulled something in the region about 20%. Right? But we persevered and we made sure, and of course with the help of social media, as I said. In the last election, we celebrated, okay, and I use the word celebrate very deliberately, polling 47%. And that's already, everybody says, wow, But that's, in the context of Singapore and where I've come from. And then just be able to make that headway. And that is where I keep telling the younger Singaporeans, my younger members, just make sure that, number one, stay true to yourself. Number two, be authentic, right? And continue to reason with the people. Don't people see through the kind of wayang, your wayang kulit that you have, that kind of thing, and you go up, you sing a few songs, shed a few tears, and expect people to come around and buy what you say? No. Yeah, it takes years, especially from where we are, to persuade the people, to convince them. But ultimately, it's going to be worth it.
You're an eternal optimist, aren't you?
I've been told that. But I can tell you that there's just so many times, of course, I'm talking to you, the camera's running. I'm not going to, shed a tear, that kind of thing, right? But more than just braggadocio, false bravado, that kind of thing, I will readily admit there were times when things got so bad that I did contemplate, just, contemplating and saying, is it all worth it? I've got a family that I still need to take care of. But I know that my children, having seen me go through the years, my members haven't seen go through the years. I just want to take them through the paces sometimes. It's just important for us to believe in what we're doing. Not everything is measured in dollars and cents. That whole idea of sometimes justice, equality, as cheesy as it may come across sometimes, is still worth fighting for. Because after all, you strip away everything that you have. We're still, at the end of the day, human beings. And human beings continue to look for things outside of the material realm. And so, to answer a very pertinent question in a very long-winded way, that's how I've always seen myself. And I've just been in this very privileged position to have gone through academia. And if you know it, you're always searching for the truth. You use your education not to better yourself and just after you get to the top, slide grease down the pole so it makes it harder for people to come after you. But just to use what you know and what you learn to better the lot for those around you. That is the most important thing that I want to be able to put across.